9 consecutive weeks of protests in Hong Kong, initially sparked by an extradition law initiated by mainland China. Protests have erupted into violent clashes between demonstrators and police. The chaos even causing flight delays and cancellations on Cathay Pacific, but Beijing saying they're going to, quote, introduce something new to attempt to quell the unrest. This as Hong Kong city leader Carrie Lam defiantly refuses to step down. Joining us to discuss, former UK MP George Galloway. George, always good to see you. We know that initially the people of Hong Kong were outraged over the extradition proposal. That's off the table for now. Why have these folks continued the unrest?
Well, 9 weeks is quite a considerable feat of mobilization, not though as considerable as the 38 weeks of the Yellow Vest mobilization in France. I make the point because there's absolutely no coverage of the Yellow Vests in France, but there is unlimited coverage of the events in Hong Kong, which is related directly to your question. The reason these protests are continuing and continuing to receive such international attention is because they are intended to, and they may well weaken China. And that is an international project of the big powers in the world who want to see China's rise and rise checked and, if possible, reversed. I'm afraid I've hardened my view from the last time we spoke about this. I'm in absolutely no doubt that foreign hands are deeply involved in these protests. The Trojan horses of the so-called NGO movement, which are actually an FGO movement, a foreign government organization movement. I'm absolutely clear that in a spectrum which stretches from the demigod Dalai Lama through the Falun Gong, through the Xinjiang Muslim question, through Tiananmen Square, now to Hong Kong. These are all about dividing and thereby weakening China.
And George, Carrie Lam, the island's chief executive, she says this is an attack on Beijing's sovereignty and on, quote, one country, two systems scenario. China is also accusing the U.S. of interfering in its affairs. Could this be a clue into the something new that Beijing plans to unveil in the coming hours?
Well, it could be, but I hope that Beijing will not take the wrong steps just for the sake of taking steps. I hope that there's not a violent crackdown. I hope that the People's Liberation Army is not sent unnecessarily in huge numbers into Hong Kong. But the chief executive is correct in this regard. China signed up to one country, two systems. It didn't sign up to two countries, two systems. And sovereignty over Hong Kong is an absolute for China and must continue to be so. There's room for negotiation about what two systems actually means in practice, and I hope that that's what Beijing means, that they will be at the table with new suggestions as to how to codify the two systems that are involved, but not at the expense of conceding to foreign countries who are seeking to interfere in China's internal affairs. Yeah. China's sovereignty over Hong Kong is an absolute and must be defended.
And now, George, flights there have also been disrupted. Now, at first glance, one might assume it's all due to the unrest. However, internal worker messages have now been leaked, and it appears that many of the Cathay Airlines workers are deliberately calling in sick as part of the protest. What do you make of that? Is this crippling travel there?
Yes, well, I mean, there's no doubt that this is a mass movement, Manila. I'm not suggesting that the people on the streets, in the airports and in the workplace are ciphers somehow, just that foreign hands are at work. The people there in Hong Kong have demands, grievances that will have to be resolved within the context of one country, two systems. I'm bound to say, I mean, I don't speak for China in any way, shape, or form, but I would have thought that Mrs. Lam's time in office must be nearing a close. She has mishandled this affair, from the extradition bill that was tabled and then frozen. It's not going to be implemented, so why not tear it up altogether? I would have thought that China should look at how we can improve governance in Hong Kong, as well as win the hearts and minds of people, especially working people in Hong Kong, to the idea that China is one country and forever will be so.
All right, we will leave it right there. As always, appreciate your take on this. George Galloway, thank you for your time.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.